Welcome to the Informator.net. What's up, everybody? It's been a minute, and I am back. I was on a vacation, went to Las Vegas with the family. Had a good time out there, but I will say I have been following the news, and I know a lot has been going on, and I've been wanting to make a video because there's so much to discuss. We got what is it? Dan Bongino is back, right? He's going back to his show. I believe it's on the second. Matter of fact, it says right here on my screen, February the second at 10 a.m. Eastern. So we got that. We got right the Renee girl that got shot in the head, the ICE agents, and you just saw at the Golden Globes all these stars with these little pins on their shirts and suits and all their clothes, just promoting this thing, this whole resistance to law enforcement. And you know I always mention, because sometimes I get these new viewers, and I always mention that I'm a non-denominational Christian, which means I read my Bible. I don't belong to a church. I read my Bible because I believe that is the closest way to get God's word, to understand God himself and how he thinks and sees things, to have a really close relationship. I do, read a basic American Bible, and I've read different ones. I like the King James version, but sometimes I read the light version because it's a little bit easier to understand the words. And I know there'll always be people like, yeah, but you should learn, Hebrew so you could read the oldest Bible, and I understand all that. But in my opinion, the Bible is divinely written, and whatever God wants you to understand from the Bible, you're going to understand because He's gonna will it to you. So I don't believe these people that try to discount the Bible in any shape or form, try to lie to you and say, "Well, it's been changed." The Dead Sea Scrolls prove that nothing has changed in the Bible. So, anyways, but we got all these stories going on, and I kind of want to get into them right now. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is Dan Bongino's return to podcasting. I guess you would say. The thing is this. He's making this big uproar saying about black pillars because there's been this sort of infighting between MAGA, and if you don't know already, I'll explain myself. I voted for Trump. I've supported Trump, and I'm very disappointed in Trump. And I will tell you this: I'm non-biased. When I see all these people on X or any social media platform, you have your people that are, no matter what Trump does, they hate him. And then you have people that, no matter how terrible Trump can be, they love him and support him no matter what, even if it goes against things they had previously said or thought or supported. Me, I'm just being honest, and I think the people that listen to my show, I think that's probably what they value the most, is that, sometimes I wonder if I'm the only sane person in the world because everything you see is just retarded. And then you realize if you just step away from your computer and you go out in public, not everybody is as crazy. Though there is a lot of retarded people out there. There's a lot of rude people, a lot of jerks. Um, Social media is kind of like, it's like you know getting a shot of espresso of retardedness. That's what you get on social media. So there's a lot of just nonsense. So Dan Bongino, he basically is siding with a certain side of MAGA. I guess to me, the side of MAGA that I would say is actually fake. I don't believe that. I believe MAGA was started what Trump said. Trump didn't want to go into wars. He didn't want to fund these wars. He wanted to be more of a peacemaker, wanted to talk about policies at home to make the economy better and bring America back. I believe that's how it all started. So anyone that believes in that core philosophy, I would say, is probably original MAGA. Now, I've never been in the MAGA gang, if you want to say, but I supported Trump and I backed up a lot of the ideas. And I do believe in the slogan, Make America Great Again. But even believing in the slogan, I knew just there's just slogans. You know, when you're trying to sell something, you come out with a slogan just to sound good, to get people to buy into it. You know, it is no different from food, right? You'll see certain snacks or foods at Walmart or any place you go shopping at, and it'll say something like, home green farms, and the whole point of that name, even though the food is probably really shitty for you, they put that name out so you can automatically think, oh, it's farm made. They give you these wholesome names and make you psychologically believe that that product is healthy for you when it probably isn't. So that being said, I like I said, I believed in the slogan, but I did know that bringing America back, to say with historians, because I wasn't around in the 50s, 60s, in that period, which they call the golden age of America. I wasn't there. A lot of us weren't, so I didn't believe it could go back because that's just not the way the economy works. Things steadily get worse in this country, and it's been proven. Your wages do not outpace inflation or what things cost. They just haven't. You can go back any decade. So there is no such thing as really going backwards. And I think anyone that really pays attention should know that. Though I think some people just get blinded. They get blinded and try to make it sound that way because they want to believe. They want to believe in these people. They want to believe in Trump. They want to believe in Bongino, right? Or whoever their heroes are. I don't care. Sean Hannity, mm, you know, whoever. It doesn't really matter. People just want to believe, right? Because that's what you're getting on the internet. Like even with the Candace Owens, you know, I believe Candace Owens has brought a lot of good information. She was very smart and all that, but I've been totally against her for a while now. And it's not your typical reasons. A lot of people are against her because, she's made this big fight with basically with Jews, right? That's what it really comes down to. There's that and there's the Charlie Kirk thing. But it all correlates to the same thing. She gets fired with Daily Wire. She's upset with them, and I think for good reason, in my opinion. And she feels a sense of like, the Jews are trying to ruin me. These people that claim to be from Israel, and I think her hate started growing, and it didn't help. Obviously, like things were backing her up because when you saw what was happening in Gaza, I think anybody with a heart, and if you're a Christian, especially, you'll look at things like that and you'll say, this isn't right. What's going on here. Um, uh, but and then she caused fractures, right? And it's weird that one person could actually do that, but it isn't just one person. It's several people, and I've been mentioning in past videos. You got to be wary of these podcasters. They're leading people the wrong way, and in my opinion, and I stated this is most of it has to do with money. It's a money thing. Everyone's in it for money. I mean, the Bible doesn't lie. When you read your Bible, Jesus warned you of that. And then there's certain specific stories. You can look at them the way you want, but the way I saw them, they were alluding to money. It's that love of money, right? Because it's not money itself, it's the love of money. And I think most people, if you look at it, everybody's trying to get theirs. So when I come here on the airways, there's nothing I'm really gaining because first of all, I don't need nobody's money. I'm not rich, but I have plenty of money. I don't need anybody's money. The things I do here, I have my own reasons, and they're opposite of that. I do want to build a brand. I do think at times, like, hey, maybe when I'm retired, this is something I can do that maybe help supplement my income or whatever. But I never think of producing things for money because of my belief in the Bible. I believe it's wrong because I'm not going to come on here and try to mislead you. If I tell you something and I believe it to be true, of course there are opinions and all that, but I really believe it to be true. I wouldn't want to steer you in the wrong direction. But when I hear these other podcasters, because I do listen to many of them, I can tell they're just so full of shit. They're pushing narratives even if they don't believe in them themselves, because they're no difference from any TV, because this is what TV does, right? This is why TV has lost the public, especially mainstream media, because they push these narratives basically to make income. They need viewers. They need viewers. So to get viewers, you got to be controversial. So you'll say shit. You'll say shit that you don't even believe, and that's what I get from a lot of these podcasters. Now, and I've also mentioned, I'm listening to them even less because it's just becoming too ludicrous. Like, there used to be a lot of good information you can get from some of these podcasters, and now it's like, now that mainstream media has kind of lost the public, and now podcasting all of a sudden has started taking the reins of the media. You're getting more bullshit because everybody's like trying to get that piece of of their their group of people to watch. Like for instance, when Charlie Kirk passed away, Turning Point, they're losing viewers. So in my opinion, the podcast world was scrambling to get those viewers. Who's going to get those viewers? Is Tim Pool going to get these viewers? Is Candace Owens going to get these viewers? Tucker Carlson. Now, they'll never come out and tell you that, but that's how they saw it. And you might ask, well, how do you know that? I go, because you know this by the type of shows they're doing. Like Candace Owens, she hasn't let up on Charlie Kirk, and I've come to the conclusion, because I do believe the smartest people. You look at all the angles. In my philosophy class, that's what was taught to us, especially in a argumentative world, right? Or any forum that you're going to make an argument. You think of all the angles, because people are going to attack your arguments, and you want to be able to stop those attacks in their tracks, and prove your points. So what I'm leading to with that, or what I am saying, is that I change depending on the information. It's okay to change your mind. A lot of people get stuck in their ways and don't want to see anything after they make a point, because they feel maybe they'll look stupid. I'm not quite sure, but people do that. They'll back up their ideas to the end even when they are proven wrong. So when it comes to Candace Owens, I've changed over the time after hearing what she's saying. I'm following what's going on, and I'm starting to believe that most of her followers have kind of switched out. I think there is a lot of people there that are liberals. I think liberals are propping her up. I do believe that. I believe that because she's being anti-Republican in a sense, um, she's getting a larger share of that group, and so when you see these people, you don't know who you're arguing with, or you don't know who's arguing with each other. Like, is that a MAGA split? That's what comes to mind, because you see people that are for her and against her. But my whole thing with Charlie Kirk is this: is I've stated before, I don't think really anything fishy is going on. I do think that there's, in every investigation, there's some things that are quite don't make sense. I also believe that law enforcement during the investigation can't really say everything. So their hands are tied. They can't really defend themselves, and Candace Owens is taking advantage of that. Um, but this whole thing with Charlie Kirk, look, I've mentioned it in some past videos. It was sad that he passed away, especially the way he did. But the honest truth is this: I didn't listen to him a whole lot. I did listen to him a little bit, enough to say that we agreed on a lot of things, but not everything. But what I will say is this: these people are just using his name for money. And honestly, they're allowing everything to get torn up because of him. To me, it's like, I mean, sorry to say, but people pass away. It's just the way it is. I've let go of Charlie Kirk a long time ago. Just the way it is. I mean, some of you guys will look at, oh, that's sacred. Dude, I'm not any part of those movements. The only movement I'm a part of is bringing Christ to you, and trying to prepare you differently than everybody else, because that's what I do this show for. This show is to help as many, even if it's 5 people, even if it's 3 people, help you guys get closer to Christ, because there's people that are going to teach you about survival, right? Because there's a lot of people believe the world is coming to is coming to an end. Not maybe not the kind of end you're thinking, because of these movies like the earth is going to blow up, or a nuclear war. Those things could possibly happen. I think most people just feel that there's going to be a drastic change in life, and there's going to be a devastating loss of life. And I've been promoting those things. This is why I started this channel, because though I've talked about these things behind closed doors, it's only been recently that I feel like the world is actually moving towards an end time scenario as the Bible states. Now, when I say that, I often say this right after. Doesn't mean it's happening next month or next year. It could happen in 5 years, could happen 10 years, it could happen 100. It's whatever God wants it to be. What I do know is this is that Jesus Christ wanted us to know. He wanted his followers to know. That's why he talked about the birth pains, in the book of Matthew or John. Anyone you want to read those books, it's in there. God is not going to tell us when the world's going to end. He just wanted us to know, like, be ready. Be ready. And then he gave us all these signs to look for. Because I've been asked before, why do you think now and not during World War II, which was very terrible for the world at that time? The starvation, money being terrible, and then obviously all these countries going to war. And I always say, because prophecy hadn't certain things in the Bible, certain prophecies have to take place. All prophecy has to take place. According to the Bible, according to any preachers you hear, they'll tell you the Bible says, because God keeps his promises, that everything has to come to light. Whatever God says is supposed to happen, all has to happen. Um, so in World War II, Israel wasn't back in the land, and they had to be back in the land. So that's why we know, like, though it was a terrible time, it was not the end of the world. But now Israel is back in the land. And as much as people want to tell you that's not their land and blah, 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 God said it is. That's just the way it is. It's in the Bible. I don't argue with God. If people want to argue with God, or if you're a non-believer, this means nothing anyways. I don't, like I've said before, I don't really care. If you're I'm never gonna believe in God, then I don't need to talk to you. I don't really care about your point of views or anything. It's meaningless to me. My point of views are for people that are either entry level into Christianity, or have been in Christianity but have gotten to a point where I don't know who I believe. There's a lot of people in Christianity that are struggling, because that is a thing as a Christian. Some people have this stupid thought that if you're a Christian, you believe you're perfect. Not at all. That's not the way it works. Most people come to Christ because you come to an impasse in your life where you don't know where you're at, you know what you're doing, or maybe you're in very troubled times and you need something. The world isn't giving you the answers, and there's something more you need, and then you come to Christ. A lot of people do it that way. There's some people that don't. They just believers from day one, and whatever it is, it really doesn't matter, because Christ. All that matters, you come to Christ. And as I was saying about being prepared, right? Preparedness. A lot of people feel the world's going to end. So you got these people that are selling foods, right? That last for a long time, the preppers, and people that teach you survivalist skills or how to hunt animals just in case these things happen. They're preparing. And so with me, I'm like, look, you want to watch the shows, you go right ahead. Whatever happens during those days, you're going to make the decision on how you're going to do things. Are you going to go out in a blaze of glory? Are you going to be one of the captured or whatnot? It's your decision. But my preparedness to you is all about your soul and your family. Like, these things are going to be very shocking when they happen. Whenever we get to that time, it's going to blow your mind. It's going to be something you've never seen before. For example, and I know I'm going way off topic, right? Because we were supposed to talk about Dan Bongino, but we'll get to that. Um, but like these people that are protesting, the Renee Good, I believe her name is, that got shot in the head. And I follow the story, but not religiously. So I'm telling you right off the bat. But I do know enough. I read a couple articles. That's it for me. I don't need to read anymore. I know a lot of you guys are like stuck on it. Oh, I need to know more. I need to know more. There's not much there. There's not. There's not. But you got these people protesting. These people that are constantly protesting, like these movie stars, and they don't know shit. They really don't. It's kind of like America's pampered. This is a conversation I have with my wife about my own kids. See, I lived a poor life, and I grew up in gangs when I got into my teens and all that stuff. And but here's what poor was for me. Now, it isn't, you know African poor like in some of those smaller areas where people are just starving, right? You're bone starving. It's not like that. But in America, I was poor, as in, there come a time every month, like the last 2 weeks or something like that, where my mom would basically say, "We're eating rice and beans, and that's it. That's all we have to eat, and we're gonna have to wait until we get more money to have, better food, chicken and steak or what, not steak, but beef or whatever." That's how it was when I was young, and I thought I didn't really think much of it. Honestly, when you're a kid, you don't think of a lot of those things. You're just playing around. I mean, I've explained this before. You look at these countries that are really, really poor, third world countries, people living in shanties, and you'll see these kids playing outside, and they don't look sad at all. They may be kicking a ball with no, and they don't have any shoes on or nothing, but these kids are happy because kids don't have that. They don't see what adults see, and that's a good thing. That's the way God wanted it. That's exactly why God says too that in heaven it's minds like those that reign up there, that are up there, because that's the time in your life where you're the best. Because even kids can be mean to each other, but they're not mean like adults. You know what I mean? In the strange cases where you get that, it's always because somebody fucked with those kids' minds, man. They screwed them over some way, and now they're just like little psychopaths or something. Um, but the point being is, um, these protesters don't understand because they're coddled in America. Like I was saying about my kids, my kids, because they ain't growing up poor like me. They have everything they need, right? They get fed well. We go on vacation trips like we just did. We were gone for a couple of weeks. You know, um, I can only explain hard times to them. I can show them some footage. I can show them some hard times, but they're not living it. And when you're not living it, it's a different perspective. It just is. And I think these protesters and stuff like that, they're coddled in America. This isn't 1920. This isn't people lining up to try to get a job, trying to feed their family. I mean, going a couple days without food or whatever. It's not that. It's not. This America that we live in, everyone's coddled, and so they go out there and they protest about stupid shit. It's just about stupid shit. Like, so it's hard for me to take them serious. It really is. Like, okay, let's just get into this Renee Good real quick, okay? Here's what I know. You can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but this is pretty much the way the story goes. She was a woman that was basically a protester, not in the sense of running around with signs, but she was in some type of watch group, watching out for illegals and telling them how to evade capture from ICE or whatnot. Right? So she that's her role. And let me tell you real quick, line this up. When I was in gangs, there's always a possibility you could get shot, you can get killed, anything can happen in that world, and I'm sure in the mafia and those type of organized crime, it's the same thing. Everybody knows they can get whacked. It's part of the game. Okay, so you whatever your shit you're doing, you know that there's a possibility that things could go wrong. So she, being a part of that world, had to know that law enforcement is going to be a part of this world that she wants to be in, having kids or whatever, and she knew that. So she chose that path, even if she had kids. She chose to say this is more important to my kids or whatever. And hey, that's her decision. Who cares? Okay, I'm not going to give my opinion on that. I'm just saying that is her choice. So here, she's a part of that world, and I guess supposedly rumors are, I don't know if it's true or not, but they said that she may have been following ICE agents basically because to do her little part, she had to know where they're at and all that. So they wanted to question her. But here's where I see it and how I break it down all the way to the bones. Okay, so she gets stopped in the video I seen. One of the agents tries to open the door after telling her to get out or whatever, and then she pulls forward and she takes off, right? And she gets shot in the head. And then people are arguing online whether that was okay that she got shot, like no one deserves to die type arguments. I agree that about that. You know what I mean? Like who would say that she deserves to die? I think that's stupid. And if any Christians are saying that, that's even worse. There's no such thing as that. It's not about deserving to die. Now there are laws, and people have to, you know, serve their time or their punishments. So there is that, but there is not like, hey, you deserve to die type. That's not a Christian's way. Most real Christians, and I hate to say it that way, but as I've said before, Christianity is being hijacked right now. But real Christians don't view things that way. But as I'm going forward on this, you'll see what I'm getting at. So she tries to go forward, and you can debate whether she was trying to run the guy over or not. Here's what I how I break it down in my own mind. She could have been trying to hit him. This is split second reaction. The guy shoots her, right? People were upset because, oh, you didn't need a shooter. Well, here's the thing. I've seen this a lot with the BLM thing. And my biggest issue with the BLM riots and so forth was, why don't people just listen? They're asking you to do a couple things. Why are you running? What are you hiding? When they pull you over in a car, I don't give a shit that you're a young black man or whatever, a young brown man. If that's what I mean, that's what I am. Mexican, right? Mexican American mixed. Um, Point being is, just listen. Quit giving attitude. You can say whatever you want to a cop. If you want to talk shit to a cop, you can talk shit, but don't do any movements and still follow directions. And I'm not saying to talk crap to cops. What I'm saying is follow directions. Why don't you listen? Why are you taking off? And by her taking off like that, that's what it tells me. Like, what are you hiding? Are you a bad person? That's what I'm asking myself. Are you a bad person? What are you hiding? And then she gets shot. Now, of course, that's the tragedy, right? She got shot in the head. Like, okay, well, that's kind of fucked up. But at the same time, think of this how you are even with your kids. I know some of you may not have kids, or so think of your parents. You have to draw a line somewhere. When I'm parenting my kids, I give my kids a couple of chances. Kids make trouble, and it's like, hey, stop doing that. And then they do something again, the same thing. Hey, I said stop doing that. You're gonna break this, or you're gonna do this. You're trying to parent them. How many chances do you give them before you put them on a timeout, spank their hand or their butt or whatever? How many chances do you do? Because if you don't do anything or you wait too long, kids start to develop that. They develop, well, I can push my mom or my dad about 8 times before they do anything. That's how I was with my mom. And women tend to do this longer with children. They give a child way more chances. And because of that, the kids, they lose discipline. Kids could easily lose discipline if you don't install any of it. So what I'm saying is you got to draw a line. So as a dad, I draw a line. I don't let my kids cross certain lines. And that's for the benefit of my child. Nothing There's no such thing as I'm hitting my child or anything because I enjoy it. It's all for the benefit of them, for their character and growing them up and raising some, good kids, right? That are going to function in society. Because when you're older than 18 or even before that too, the cops will ingest punishment on your children. So, you're trying to get them like, hey, listen and do the things you're supposed to do. Have good kids, right? So I'm sure in these rooms, these ICE agents are talking the same thing. Like, you see these protesters, they get up all in the face and they're talking shit. They're trying to start problems. They want to film an ICE agent slapping somebody or throwing them to the ground. You see it. There's no denying that. Like, they'll will be people that try to say, "Oh, that's not true," but they're liars. They just say that because they just want to prove their point, and it's bullshit. You see it. And so I know in those rooms they're saying the same thing. Like, when do you stop? When are we gonna draw a line? And so a line was drawn there. Now you would think like, you mean you shot he shot that woman to draw a line? That's it? And it's like, no, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, I think that law enforcement was like, We're not going to be doing these things anymore. We're not going to let you run off." What if she did run over his leg or something? Some people are like, "Ugh, I can't believe it. Now he's going to feel like this." Like, well, what if she would have felt if she would have ran him over? You know what I mean? Like, why are you waiting? We don't know what's going to happen in those seconds. If she did run him over, then what? You know what I mean? Like, if we could rewind the tape and then she ran him over, and then what would those people would be? All those people would be wrong. Like, how dare him shoot her? She wasn't trying to run him over. We don't know. We don't know. She may have missed him. We don't know. The point being is she should never have been running to begin with. It would never have happened. He shot her, and now we're in this whole scenario where everyone's arguing. But like I'm saying, there has to be lines drawn. And I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, I think less people are going to run because now after she got shot, people get more scared and they're not going to. So that's what I mean. At some point, some shit's going to happen. When you have constant clashes and arguments, at some point, something is going to happen, and something did happen. Now, here's what I don't like about all this is they're calling her a domestic terrorist. And that is something from 9/11 that I've been talking about for a while, right? Behind closed doors, and I have mentioned in videos. That's all been constructed to take away rights. This is part of Antichrist talk. This is, basically worldwide compliance to death because it's either you support Satanism or you don't. And if you don't, then you're gone. So, um, that whole calling her a domestic terrorist, that is the most alarming thing out of all this. Because if you're with MAGA or any of that stuff, I don't see how you don't see the writing on the wall. If a majority of MAGA is Christians, which I believe they at least say they are, probably around 70%, in my opinion, um, then you should know your Bible. And at some point, the Antichrist, right, the dark forces do take over, and a lot of Christians will be persecuted. Well, how do you think that's going to happen? Hmm? How do you think that's going to happen? It's going to happen because of things like this. Because if they sway you to say, yeah, it's okay to call her a domestic terrorist, it's okay for um, National Guard to be on the streets and all that. Well, it's eventually going to happen to you too. That's how it works. See, it's a very slippery slope. Um, so and I think about these things in my own heart. Like how should I go about this? And this is why I have a hard time. This is why I'm out. Like the Democrats to me really hurt this country, socially, right? Morally, with the whole, kids and, transgender type stuff, and, just that whole thing is just terrible for a Christian. But to see what's going on now, it's the other side. It's world domination. It's taking over countries like Venezuela. It's going to where you kill people for gain, monetary gain, and that's another kind of sin, and it bothers me. And so I'm like out, and this is why I talk about preparedness, because that's what it really comes down to. Because it's hard to support any side, because if you go all in on any one of these sides, you're selling out your soul. You're selling out your soul. So I don't understand, why Christians are willing to do that. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at on that. And then, like I said, I guess I should finish breaking that down where I lie with the Renee Good thing, which is um, I break it down to the basic terms, which is there are laws, and I know they want to protect some of these illegal immigrants, but at the end of the day, they've committed a crime. And I think this is why Jesus, I brought this up in a conversation over the weekend. To me, this is why Jesus Christ, when he said, let give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar with the coin, he was stating a few things in that. And how it relates to this is Jesus wasn't about politics, because God stopped intervening in that way. God was about country, and he's all that, and he set rules in the Old Testament about countries, but when it at least pertains to Israel, and pretty much if it pertains to Israel, then it could pertain to everybody. So when Jesus said that, that was his way of saying, like, I'm not here for your earthly rule, because God never wanted kings. And I don't know how many of you know this. He never wanted that. He had saviors in Israel, um, whether it be Samson or before Samson. There was several saviors before that. Even um, Joshua. Those were saviors. Those weren't rulers. They weren't kings. And God didn't want that, and He was sad. He told Samuel, that people, because the people wanted kings, and God was unhappy about that. He said they've decided to not to have me and have a person. So God didn't like it, and I think that continues with Jesus. And it's kind of like Jesus said, "Look, you need to worry about your soul, because this all doesn't matter. Like what you guys are doing here is like it's foolishness, because man is just unjust. I mean, it says in the book of Genesis that um, our hearts are inclined to do evil, especially in those days, it was perpetual. So God is really just trying to save you from yourself. So as when it comes to government and all that, God's basic when He said that to the Pharisees, give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. That was His way of saying, whatever their kingdom is, because this is man's rule here, is what it is. Those are the laws. Those are the laws. That's why He didn't do the kind of rebellion that the Jews. That's why they're not happy with Him. That's why today's Israelites and Israel people in Israel or Jews or whatever are not happy with Jesus, because they wanted a full out rebellion back then, and He didn't give them what they thought they were supposed to get. Anyways, the point being is these people broke the law. It's regardless of anything. You can tell me all these things about, yeah, but they're desperate. They're coming from it's like I can have compassion for that, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't give you the right to break the law and think you can just skirt in front of all the people trying to do things correctly, because you're also hurting those people's livelihoods. You see what I'm saying? When you do this, when you sin like that, it just keeps going and going and going. It never ends. So to me, I break it down to the beginning. I mean, look, even the founders and the people in America, right? We had a couple of battles. We had the Battle of Independence. So all these men knew, like, hey, to get out of Britain's rule, we have to go to war. So there was a lot of men that knew they weren't going to come back home to their families. It's a huge sacrifice, huge. It's so huge. I can't wrap my head around it, But they chose to do it, and it's like it was amazing. And this isn't the only country that had revolutions in the past. So my point to you is that if you're in a country that has a lot of issues, is escaping it really the only way forward? I mean, maybe you need to rise up and overthrow your country's government, or petition for America to take. I've said it before a long time ago that I think America should have took over Mexico. Now, you're going to hear me say that and go, well, why are you okay with the Venezuela? Why are you upset about the Venezuela thing? Because I've mentioned I don't agree with what we did. The thing with Mexico is that we're on a border and these people keep crossing. So my thought is this: I would simply say it if it need to be. Like right now, it's not need to be said, but during the time we were having trouble just a few years ago, my thought had always been like, hey, here's the ultimatum. Either one, Mexico, you take a handle of your people and stop them from coming here, right? Or we're going to take over Mexico, and then everyone's a citizen and we don't have to worry about that anymore. We're just going to get all the stuff all the goodies your land has, and you'll just be a part of America, and so forth. You know, I think that's okay to do if a country can't get its shit together when they're on your border. Venezuela, they weren't near us. And though there was some people that came here, it wasn't enough to me. It's kind of like, now you don't do that. We went in there, we wanted the oil, and we lied about it. We pretended it was about drugs when they weren't even like this huge, drug carrier or drug dealer in America. I don't know where they ranked, but it wasn't very high. I want to say they were around sixth in Latin America. Even Colombia is worse than them, and we didn't care, and we don't care about Colombia. So we know it was always a power grab, and they lied about it, and now they're saying it's okay. And that's the problem, because you lied and you lied and you lied, and it's like, well, if you keep lying, I can't trust you. You know what I mean? So my point is that's why I say that about Mexico. It was more like that. Like if you can't handle your citizens and they keep coming over, then maybe we just have to take over. But here's the thing: me being Mexican, I know that a lot of people, when I brought up these ideas to my fellow Mexicans, they don't like it. They don't like the idea because they're like, oh, a lot of them like to get over on America. Like, I'm gonna make money here and I'm gonna send it over there. Or I'm gonna buy me two houses over there. It's like they want a shitty economy in Mexico so they can own stuff over there and be a bigwig. And that's what it comes to. Like I said, everything's always about money. Money makes people do stupid shit. It makes people sin like crazy. That's why you have OnlyFans, right? You have young women selling their bodies, and they're prostituting themselves, right, without having sex, but they're still doing things that are immoral, and they're hurting their souls by doing that because they're selling out for money. Everybody wants money, and So, hey, there's my whole little rant about that. Let's just talk real quick about Dan Bongino. So he's back and he's like trying to cause this little nonsense. He's probably just trying to carve out his little section. And right now, I see that he has an argument going with Dave Smith. But to me, Dan Bongino, Operation Mockingbird. Check this out real quick, guys. Okay, so this article right here on my website, theinforminator.net, you can see it on top. Go there. Haven't had an article released in a while, but there's some good articles there because I've mentioned before. I don't know how long I'm doing this. I'm doing this trying to spread information, and maybe I do this until I die, or maybe I do it for a couple of years. I don't know. I really don't know. But I do have some really good articles here, really good information, well thought out stuff. My background is writing. I have a couple of novels. I don't really talk about them much because I'm reworking them right now, but they're kind of older. But I am reworking it, getting it edited a little bit better, more properly. So I started this website, and it's all free to you. I don't do ads because I talk controversial, and there's another sign like I couldn't get money because Google told me if you're gonna talk this way, we can't give you any ads. Well, I said fuck the ads, fuck the money. I'm doing this for you guys, and I don't know how long I'm gonna do it. So you go on here, it's clean, not gonna get no ads. You can read the articles, and like I said, it's really good information. It'll keep you up at least um, on how I see things forming out. Now, like I said, things will change from time to time, but because I don't know the future, I just make like being a novel writer, you do research and you do look at trends and you do look at things like that. And so that's kind of what I do when I look at this whole where we're headed in America and the world. I kind of look at it and I put the pieces of the puzzles together and try to be accurate. But anyway, so this is June 1st, 2025. So this was a while ago, right? It was what, 6 months ago or so. And this article, The Curious Evolution of Dan Bongino and Cash Patel on the Epstein Files. I talked about it back then because I never believed they were really going to go to work on this. Because, well, look, Dan Bongino, his whole life is in government. Cash Patel is too. And even Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi was a foreign agent for Qatar. And what does that mean? It sounds a lot worse than what it is, but what a foreign agent is that she basically was lobbying for Qatar to have business deals and easier uh, when it comes to especially business. She helped them navigate through American policy and try to help get some footing in the business world in America's side. And that's what she did. She did that for Qatar, and there's a lot of controversy about that because you know a lot of people think Qatar is involved in child trafficking and all that. And the fact that she basically said, "Well, you're paying me good money, so I could care less about that." She tried to change their image. So in this article, I um, with the help of AI and a lot of stuff like that and a lot of digging, um, we came out with this article, and it shows everything that you need to know that matters. And I never really the picture is not painted because you don't want to be truthful. You don't want to say, well, for sure this, for sure that. No, what is done here is we talk about when they served, um, where they came from, their backgrounds, and all that. But I did um, conclude it with Operation Mockingbird because that's what Operation Mockingbird was in a nutshell, which is the CIA put operatives in media to sway stories and put out stories that um, would help w- in government narratives. And that's what Operation Mockingbird was. And so all these people that are, with Bongino and Patel, to me, they were plants. Okay, that's an opinion. I can't say for sure because we're not gonna. When it comes to conspiracy, you're never really gonna know the full truth, anyways. But to me, by seeing what happened with the Epstein files and how they were for it, and how before they got into their positions in government, they were like, "Oh man, something's dirty there, something's fishy," and then how they had their interview and straight faced, and I don't know, Don Bengino looked like he was about to shit in his pants. Like these guys totally flipped. Totally flipped. And that's when you realize, like, see, The Epstein Files, like I said before in other podcasts, go watch them. The Uncomfortable Truth with AP and Chatty. I have podcasts in the past where I was on this stuff before anybody. And I said, when it comes to the Epstein, you're never going to get to the bottom of it because there's just way too many powerful people in government all around the world, not just America. And it would cripple the foundation of the world because of all the governments. So it was never going to be released. And so when those guys got there, um, they were probably told them, like, you ain't going to get it. And if you want it, you're going to end up in a casket or something. Whatever they told them. Maybe they paid him off. I don't know. But they did switch. And now Dan Bongino, right? And if, like I said, if you want to read this article, go to the informator.net. But now you have this Dan Bongino trying to cause this more of a split, trying to basically be an ally to a Ben Shapiro on that side, right? Mark Levine, all the guys that are fighting against, say, a Megyn Kelly, Tucker, and Candace Owens. It's just this fucking split, right? Everyone's fighting, and then you got the midterms coming up, and who in the hell knows what's going to happen there with all that. But Dan Bongino, to me, he's useless. I don't listen to Ben Shapiro. Useless. Ben Shapiro's Israel first. Like, I don't know how anyone doesn't see that. And here's the thing: being a Christian, I pray for Israel and the Jews. I do. I want them to find Jesus and God. I also know that when that happens, that's the world's gonna end. I also know that because that's what's said in the Bible. So I do pray for them. I don't want them to be doing the stuff they're doing, but right now there's a lot of pieces being moved around. This whole think of Game of Thrones, but on a world stage. That's what we're going through right now. Like we have these things at home that are going on with the ice and all that, but honestly, I don't think it's all that big. I really don't. I think Trump has done a decent job, and I'm being honest. He's done a decent job when it comes to American policy, because like I told you earlier, in decades past, you could see America has been slipping away since the Industrial Revolution, and then after World War II, where we kind of regained our footing. It's been in steady decline, not only economically, but socially, morally, all those things. But just on the economic front, there is no going back. So, what I'm trying to tell you is when Biden was in office, or if Kamala Harris had won, we would just be in more of a free fall. So, by Trump being there, he's kind of slowed things down just a little. You know what I mean? So, things are still tight. Could they get better? Possibly. They could for maybe a short term, but it's not going to be long term. The Bible doesn't even say that. Bible says the money's going to crash. This is exactly why the mark of the beast happens. So when you look at the landscape and you see people like Elon Musk who released this fucking cringe video about robots and shit and women kissing women, I don't know. That guy's fucking lost it. My point is these technocrats, they can't wait till uh what's his face? The vice president. I don't know why I can't think of his damn name right now. JD Vance. There it is. They can't wait till this guy comes in. He's If JD Vance wins, um, the technocrats couldn't be happier because he's gonna help. Because remember, with the big beautiful bill, there is the 10-year, um, basically no rules, no holds barred AI tech. AI is going like look, I use AI. Almost everyone I know uses AI. You still have some people that are holdouts on it, but AI is useful for some people. For some people, they're just retarded. There's this video right here. I mean, that's funny. I'll give it that. But AI for home use is awesome, in my opinion. Now, it isn't always truthful. You gotta make sure you fact check it. But certain things, no matter what, it is 100% accurate. If you ask it math questions, 100% accurate. If you want it to help you put something together, be very accurate. Now, if you start asking it for certain point of views, it can be biased because of the creators, so forth. You got to remember, AI for home pulls stuff off the internet, so it can get things wrong. So depending on what you're asking, it can be way off. But I think it's an extremely helpful tool for the public. But the AI that most of us on podcasts talk about, when you talk doom and gloom AI, you're talking about, the real big stuff. We're talking about mother AI, right? And that's what I've been naming it so we can know the difference. Mother AI is these big fucking machines that are making out in different areas of the world, right? Different areas of the United States, and they're putting power grids specifically for it. They want to do nuclear power for it because they're basically big mother AI motherboards that they're using to try to do who knows what, right? Whether it be, I think medical and all them are that's going to be in use. AI is going to help create medicines, all those things, breakthroughs, and a lot of things, and they're using it now. Okay, that's you can read any articles everywhere. They're doing that now. Okay, but the kind of I think that they're doing like in these remote places, that's the AI that's um the stuff that's really going to change the world, and I don't think for the better. We're talking about combining minds with computers. We're talking chips to help your body movements, formulas, space travel, weaponry, right? High tech weaponry. And when I say space travel, I'm talking everything, whether it be looking into black holes. Um, what is that one called? Just everything from a plurality of worlds, every type of physics. It's looking into all those things. It's going to try to forward us. How can we make ships that can go here? How can we get a better energy than just oil? Right? It's so primitive. And the oil manufacturers have fought in this type of stuff for a long time, but then they're finally going to lose out. And the reason they're going to lose out is because you're going to have these countries that are just tired of oil, depending on oil. The countries like India, that still buy oil, but they got a lot of engineers in India. So you're going to have these people that are going to say, "Well, fuck oil. We don't have it. It's not in our land. How do we come out? Let's try to get AI to help us figure this shit out. How can we come out with a totally new energy that doesn't need oil?" And so the oil people are going to lose out. That's another prediction, and there's another prediction of mine. So China and them, they're all in this race. And now, once this race happens, which I believe is happening now, we will start to get off oil. Now, we're always going to need oil, as far as I know, because we use oil in everything. In the manufacturing of things, you need oil. Anything from plastics, rubbers needs oil. So oil is always going to be a thing. But the fuel part of it, that's the part that will die down eventually. Eventually. And I'm sure they have already made deals behind closed doors when it comes to AI tech and the oil industry, because the oil industry knows they're losing, but they need to make deals. So they probably said, can we not touch the car industry for a while or whatever? And you can use it on other everything else, whatever. I'm sure there's things going on in the background, but right now I just see is like I said, the world's a big, you know, chessboard, and everyone's kind of maneuvering around. I've told you guys in the past about Europe, and you can see there's Europe, Russia, there's China. Everyone's kind of getting ready. It's getting ready, and that's why I'm telling you guys. Just read your Bibles, man. Go to church. Keep going to church. Don't let this world pull you back. Because, like I said, I seen it. Yeah, I've seen people say, "Okay, look at earlier today." Rumble throws out a post. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Here it is. Right, Rumble secures exclusive video and live streaming rights for the Dan Bongino show. I saw this, and this is what's going on all the time. And it's like fucking people just really have short memories, or just don't know anything, or just fucking Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes. I'm like, I saw this and I said, wait, 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 wait. Dan Bongino, doesn't he own a piece of Rumble? Because I remember him promoting Rumble pretty hard. So I asked Chatty about that, and even Chatty said, yeah, he owns significant stake. Okay, so he's a shareholder. So why are they acting like, you know what I mean? Like he was an independent, and now they signed him. This is all part of the bullshit. People lie constantly like this, and it kind of just goes under the rug. I've seen it on live television. I've seen someone make a comment, right? And then literally 2 sentences later, disagree with their own comment. And nobody says, hey, you just said this 2 sentences ago. Now you're saying that? It's like, for example, if I came on here and said, butter is more healthy than that fake butter. You need to eat real butter from cows. And then 2 sentences later say, and butter's terrible for you. That's why you shouldn't use butter. It's terrible for you. You should use the fake butter. And then people just go along with it. I've been seeing that more and more. And these are all part of videos like this one's dragging on, but those are part of videos I've been wanting to make. It's just about the great deception. You know what? For shits and giggles, for the next 10 minutes, how about I bring Chatty on real quick and let's talk about some of these things. Hey, Chatty, I have a question for you. Can you explain to the audience the great deception? Because right now there's a lot of manipulating going on, in my opinion, in the world, and a lot of people don't seem to understand truth from untruth. And I want my audience to understand that this is actually biblical. Like, we're in the times where people just don't know what's going on anymore because of the manipulation, AI, the trickery, foolery, and play on words. So, can you explain where in the Bible that it talks about things like this?
Absolutely, Anthony. So, to everyone listening, let's dive into that. When we talk about the concept of the great deception in a biblical sense, we're usually referencing passages that warn about a time of widespread confusion and deception in the last days. One key place you'll find this is in the New Testament, like in Matthew 24, where Jesus talks about false prophets and false messiahs who will come to lead many astray. And if you look into Paul's letters, like 2 Thessalonians, he talks about a strong delusion that comes upon people who refuse to love the truth. The idea is that in those times, there's so much manipulation, whether through what we'd call modern technology, AI, or just the twisting of words, that it becomes really hard for people to discern what's true. So in a nutshell, the Bible definitely speaks to these times of confusion and warns us to stay vigilant and grounded in the truth.
Well, here's one of my thoughts. Okay, so when Jesus says, "Many will come in my name," and they'll try to deceive many. Sometimes a lot of people think that it has to be something like the Branch Davidians, where David Koresh claimed to be Jesus Christ, and we've had a few of those people in the past. But I would actually go a step further. I actually believe he's also talking about just people using his name to deceive you in that way too, to kind of just lead you astray from what the Bible actually means. Because the truth is, a lot of people don't read their Bible.
Yeah, I think you're definitely onto something there, Anthony. And I love that perspective because it's really relevant to what we see around us. It doesn't always have to be someone outright saying, hey, I'm literally Jesus. Sometimes it's people or groups just using the authority of Jesus' name to push ideas that are pretty far removed from what the Bible actually teaches. And like you said, if people aren't reading or understanding the Bible themselves, it's a lot easier to be led astray by someone who just claims to represent Jesus, but doesn't actually reflect his teachings. So it's a really good reminder for everyone to kind of go back to the source and be discerning.
There's that, and then right now, I'm sure you can look it up if you don't already have it saved in your memory bank. But like I'm telling people, like, we're one of the issues that we're having today is that Christianity is being hijacked. Like, we know the numbers have fallen, but especially after the Charlie Kirk assassination, people have been going back to church. Now, I don't think it's really bringing new numbers. They might be bringing some numbers, but I put it this way: if 30% of people stopped going to church in the last, say, 2 decades, maybe we got 3% back. So it's those play on percentages that we can always do, just like the job market and the economy. Like, for instance, after COVID, Biden got some jobs back, and they tried to make it sound like he brought America back. But in reality, you have to look at the numbers. If you lost 5 million jobs and you gain a million back, you can't champion it like you gained it all back. Like, you're still below 4 million jobs. And I kind of think that that's what's going on too with Christianity. Like, the numbers, I don't think have gotten back. But what I am saying is, it seems Christianity is being hijacked because you have all these different groups trying to claim Christianity, but yet are different from each other and are actually arguing with each other right now.
Yeah, that's a really insightful way to put it, Anthony, and I think it makes a lot of sense. You're basically pointing out that we're seeing this sort of fractional tug of war over Christianity right now. You've got different groups, different interpretations, and yeah, even a bit of infighting. And that can look a lot like a hijacking, especially when it leads to confusion and people not really knowing where to turn. And you're right about the numbers too. It's kind of like what you said with the economy example. Losing a big chunk and then gaining just a small fraction back doesn't mean you're fully back to where you were. So, in a way, it's a reminder that the landscape is shifting and people really need to be discerning about what they believe and who they're listening to. But yeah, it's a fascinating and definitely challenging time for sure.
All right, guys. So, like I said, just keep that in mind. You know, that's why I brought Chatty on because I've told you guys, I read my Bible. I still go back in. I read it fully one time, and now I just go back and hear, back in there, back and forth, hearing, reading certain books, both studying passages. And that's what Chatty is good for with me is he's able to. I can just tell him what I remember reading, and he can find it for me, and that's a great help, especially for the show. But like I said, I'm just trying to tell you the deception out there is alarming. So be careful with these podcasters. They're trying to fuck with your mind, and I've seen it happen. You may not think it, but it does happen. It's kind of like this. Let's say you're not racist, right? Let's say you believe everybody's cool and you just want to live a life. But if I show you nothing but video, let's say, for instance, you're a white guy, and I show you videos of black people constantly, right? Of these videos people take of black people beating up a white person. How long before you start to become racist and you don't really know it? It'll be a slow, gradual process, and you'll start to be like, I hate these fucking black people. They're always fucking up our people. You know, you start, and then you'll find like-minded people like you, and then there you go. Before you know it, you're pretty racist in your own mind. That's how it works. It's all psychological, you know, and these things are proven. It's not made up stuff. It's all proven. This is why I'm so against the liberals because they invented psychology and then they act like it doesn't exist. You know, they know these things. That's why when BLM was doing their stuff and they talk about reparations and all that, to me, I know what they know, that you're actually hurting the cause. You're causing more people to become racist by doing things like that. You know, why would you champion that? You know, I was watching a show last night. It was called, it was like a movie. It was kind of on, so I kind of came in maybe like 15 minutes in or so. It was called Undefeated, right? It was about this guy who coached this football team in Manassas, I believe, Manassas. And I think that's in Memphis. I'm pretty sure it's in Memphis because I saw the logos and I heard them mention Memphis a couple of times. And in this video, this guy, he runs, I think, a lumber business. And so he has money and all that, but yet he coaches this school that's basically inner city troubled school, you know, and mostly black kids, if not all black kids. And his football team are all these young black men that, you know, come from troubled families. And man, you know, and I ain't ashamed to say it, I cried a couple of times because, you know, I know they're kids, man. They're 17, 18 years old. They're kids. And a lot of them are acting tough because they feel they have to act tough, right? Because their surroundings tell them they have to act tough. And it's such a bullshit way to live. And it's like, I feel so sad for them because it's like, nah, man, treat each other good, you know, um, do well in school, get out of that fucking place, you know? And in that movie, I enjoyed the aspect of people trying to help these young men and letting them know there's a different way. Now, I would have used some different philosophy in there, but it was really nice to see people seeing some kids that have some issues and really, really trying to help them. You know, um, I'm just saying, man. It's like if you see things enough, you start to hate people, and it's a sad thing. And we live in this country where everybody wants that. That's the point I'm saying when I watch that show, because even I get upset. I'm not immune to it. We see these things. You see enough things of people hurting people, you get a little upset. And we live in a world that's hyperbolic in that way, right? Everyone wants to feature. This is why social media is unhealthy. But yet I watch the show and it's like, I see what it is, man. I mean, I'm a Christian. I want everyone to do well. I just can't stand that the people that hijack even races are just doing them dirty. It's like instead of telling certain groups, like just for example, because of the show I'm watching, these liberals that want to tell these black people that you're always a victim, always a victim. How about saying, look, yeah, the world's a little bit against you, okay, on certain things, okay, it has been, but the best way to get out of it is to realize it that there's some issues here and there, right? But just put your head down, work hard, try to do the right thing. Don't bully each other, don't hurt each other, and do the right things. But instead, they just want to push victim, victim, victim. And by doing that, they never get out. And that's when you look at it and say, this is pure evil. This is what the Democrats want. They don't want them to get out. This is why they just want to offer money. Offering people money isn't going to fucking help. I don't, like I said, I see with my own kids, man. It's like you give them too much, it doesn't do any good. It doesn't do any good. The only way to do it is to say, hey, man, like for instance, with welfare, if you didn't give them so much, maybe they'd want a better life. But no, they want to give them more than enough so they could be like, I'm just gonna be, I don't want to do shit with my life, and I'm not gonna watch my kids, and I don't care about my kids schooling, and then they fail and fail and fail because nobody says, hey, man, you can get out. Because that's what happened to me. I just told you my story, eating beans and rice, but now here I am, and I have a pretty good life. Like I said, I ain't rich, but I have more than enough money. You know what I mean? More than enough money. So that's part of the thing I was telling you about the deception and the podcasters. All these other podcasters, Candace Owens makes me sick, man. She talks about Charlie Kirk and his death and blah blah blah, and the very next sentence she's like, "Now buy my mugs." I don't do that shit. Matter of fact, when I do my little shorts, which are fairly popular, if I do a Christian short, like say Billy Graham or any other pastor that has something good to say, I never do any advertising because I try to keep something sacred. Like everybody should keep some things sacred. I keep my Christianity sacred in that way. Like whenever I do one of those uplifting speeches or a sermon, I put together a sermon for you. I'm not advertising. But on other stuff, I'll say something. Like, I've told, like, even right now, I'll tell you, I've been writing music. I told you I'm a writer. I like to write music. I like to write the lyrics and I like to put the beats together. And sure, it's AI. I'm looking for AI to put it out for me and all those things, but it's all my words. It's my finding the beats. It's mine choreographing the beats how I want them, how I want my choruses, how I want how I want the mixing to be. I do all that, you know. But I do it specifically for the art. So of course I want to sell it. You know what I mean? But I've already stated, buy it because you like it. Don't buy it to support my channel. You want to support my channel? How's this? You just listen and you pass along the word. If it's a good, if it's something that you like, you do it. If you don't like it, then don't do it. That's what I would tell you. That's how you support me. Do it if you like it. Don't do it just for the shits and giggles of it. Do it if you like it. If you want something that if when I re-put out my books, if you want to buy them because you like them, then you buy them. If you don't like them, don't get them. It doesn't hurt me. It's fine. What I'm doing here means the most to me, and that's just getting some people, and I get people that say amen, thanks, whatever, that's a good podcast. That's what I'm going for. You know what I mean? I don't need that shit. I'm not going to tell you, hey, buy a mug after I talk about somebody's death that I'm supposedly care about. I'm not doing that shit. Now, like I said, that doesn't mean, oh, are you saying you would never sell anything? No, I don't have a problem with people selling stuff. Anyone can do whatever they want. I just don't like people being disingenuous. You know what I mean? Like if I make a product eventually, I might one day maybe I'll make my own mugs and all that. I might, but I will still have the same philosophy. Buy them if you want them. I will never say buy them to support my show. Nah, I'm never gonna say that. You buy it if you want it. If you don't want it, don't get it. I'm cool. I'm cool with that. So these guys are disingenuous. They just want you to buy their shit, watch your show, so they'll say shit that's stupid and extreme and retarded. And all they're doing is fucking you up in your head, and then they're destroying their own soul if they even believe in Christ, even though they mention Christ all the time. I don't know if they believe in Christ by the way they act sometimes. Anyways, I'm gonna cut this one short. I don't even, that was stupid to say. Now I'm not cutting this one short. It was a long podcast. Glad to be back. I know everyone's gonna hear Dan Bongino way more than me, but if you heard this long, This is for my long driver, the ones my truck drivers, anyone going on long drives. This is for you. I know you guys like the long versions, so this one's pretty long. Anyways, glad to be back. I hope you have a great new year. Whatever things you're planning to do, your resolutions, I hope they go through. I know most of them don't. I didn't make one myself. Well, I guess I sort of did. I didn't call it a resolution though, but I'm always trying to get better as a person. So I hope you guys keep up the fight for yourselves and for your souls, and you read your Bibles and go to church and do what you need to do. And also, I hope that you just have a great year and you're blessed. Thank you guys for listening. God bless. Welcome to the Informator.net.